Good afternoon, everybody. I look a little different to David Bowkett. I've stepped in due to a technical glitch. So I'm Beverly Vaughan, and I am literally here to introduce our next two speakers. I'm absolutely thrilled to have with us this afternoon Michael Hopkins and Graeme Wilkinson, and they join us from two different perspectives of how we make the porous pipeline work and how we evaluate how it's worked. Michael Hopkins works with us on our knowledge exchange evaluation, looking at novel and innovative ways to look at how we get short-term measures of long-term impact. And Graeme joins us as the head of virtual R&D from the Medicines Discovery Catapult, with many years of experience both within AstraZeneca and with the Medicines Discovery Catapult, looking at different aspects of drug discovery. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to them both to talk about how we're making a reality out of that fabulous introduction that Mike has just given us. So the floor is yours, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank the UK Spine team for inviting me to talk today. I'm Michael Hopkins. I'm Professor of Innovation Management at the Science Policy Research Unit at the University of Sussex Business School. And I spend my time looking at patterns of innovation in industry and in the public sector as well, around the development of new drugs and diagnostics. And when I look at UK Spine, what I see is the meeting of open science and open innovation. And I'm going to be talking today about those terms. I'll introduce those terms as we go along and explore some of the challenges that raises for the UK Spine collaboration, and hopefully set the stage for Graeme to follow and talk a bit more about how those are being addressed by UK Spine. I'll start by talking a little bit about the perspective that my team brings. We've been commissioned by UK Spine, as Bev introduced, to look at the collaboration and how it develops. And we use an approach which we've developed at the University of Sussex called the Diversity Approach to Research Evaluation, or DARE. And that focuses on looking at the bridging that occurs across boundaries during collaborations. So just to give you an example here, I've got some maps which describe a collaboration which brought together scientists to validate a biomarker analysis platform for use in cancer R&D. And what you can see here on the left is two academic centres working with a pharmaceutical company. And you can see as we move to the map on the right that what's happened as a result of that collaboration is lots of new connections have been formed between individuals, and those are new working relationships, and those underpin the subsequent work on outputs, which might follow quite some time later. In this case, the outcomes, apart from publications and so on, were that the team were able to validate their analytical approach, and this subsequently became part of a spin-out company. So what we're doing in our DARE analysis is we're looking at the diversity of team composition, because that's setting up the opportunity for individuals to begin to work across boundaries, and those might be disciplinary boundaries or organizational boundaries. There are a range of different boundaries that we study, and we're interested to look at how researchers work with other researchers, but also how they work with other types of stakeholder. And we're looking at the processes as well that aid that collaboration, because it's those processes that are underpinning collaboration. In the specific context of UK Spine, it's useful to think about the pharmaceutical product life cycle. And when I think about the development of drugs, I think about this cycle. And What you can see here, of course, is, and will be familiar to many of you, is this trough where there's heavy R&D expenditure in the early years of developing a drug, and then that's followed by a wave of revenues that follow once that product is on the market. And those initial stages are very costly and risky. Preclinical and clinical development takes on average 14 years from patent to product registration. 9 out of 10 products fail in clinical trials, in human trials. And if we start with a large array of potential projects, we might expect that it could cost several $100 million or even $1 billion or more to bring a successful product to the market. And once that happens, of course, then you do have the possibility of a wave of revenues, but those then decline as the market becomes attractive to competitors to move in, and usually when products are no longer protected by patents, then you get generic competition. And so while we can look at this diagram and think of this as an individual product life cycle, we can also see this as something that happens to whole therapeutic fields. So the industry was in the past making a lot of revenue from developing and selling novel antibiotics, not so much anymore, and they moved to gastrointestinal disease and then cardiovascular disease. And as those areas become subject to genericization, they end up, the industry ends up moving on to new pastures. And so they move to cancer, and now perhaps they'll move into aging. And so that really is the value of UK Spine. They're looking for therapeutic targets in a new field, and potentially opening up aging for industry in the UK in particular, which could be an important market in the future. And it's already been highlighted as an area of strategic importance. The UK government has an industrial strategy which marks out aging as a key societal challenge. And I don't want to repeat Michael Ferguson's talk too much, but there was a stress in that talk, but also in documents that we've seen around UK Spine. And these are quotes from a press release, that there is this emphasis on developing a new pipeline to transform and accelerate the development of aging therapeutics. And we know this is going to involve some complex biological pathways, intervening in those and producing this porous model, which allows organizations such as university research teams and pharmaceutical companies to engage so that they can contribute to that pipeline at different points. When I hear the term porous pipeline and that description, I think about the term open innovation. And open innovation is a term that's been defined by Henry Chesbrough, US business school academic, who's studying a range of industries. And he defines open innovation as the use of purposive inflows and outflows of knowledge to accelerate internal innovation and expand the market for external use of innovation, respectively. What that essentially means, and I think it's quite clearly shown with this funnel, which certainly looks very porous here, which is also a diagram from Henry Chesborough's work. What we see is at the front end of that, internal technologies, projects, internal to an organization, but also the opportunity to put into that funnel projects and technologies from outside. And as project development occurs, with the aim of the current market of that organization, there is the possibility that new projects can be brought in to that development funnel, but also an organisation may decide that there are assets that they have that are best exploited by others for non-target markets. Those can be divested, licensed out, or development could be shared with other organisations, sharing the risk, bringing crucial bits of knowledge together to address the problem collaboratively. And so this is a porous pipeline then described by Chesbrough, and it's one that is observed in different industries. So Chesbrough argues open innovation is becoming more common. We're seeing innovation occurring not just in single organisations, but increasingly in networks in different industries. And certainly, I've been studying the pharmaceutical industry for many years, and that is a process which is well established in the pharmaceutical industry. And it's a well-studied process as well. Open innovation is associated with well-known challenges. One of those is finding external opportunities or allowing those to find you. And the evaluation of external ideas can be costly and of course is important to ensure that we are bringing in ideas which are not more risky than we might anticipate. And it takes knowledge and a range of R&D capabilities to be able to engage with those external ideas and to be able to absorb them. So of course, we can't outsource everything. We have to have some of our own internal R&D capabilities in relevant areas in order to be able to work with that external knowledge. And then finally, there are issues around sharing and exchanging intellectual property, and that involves navigating licensing agreements and dealing with potential conflicts between partners. Indeed, some of the world's most successful drugs have been subject to vigorous litigation between the collaborators. I think that's sort of, in some ways, a bit of an indication of the success of those molecules, because they have attracted these debates. So I mean, I think it's definitely a risk in the field. Academics, however, are more used to practicing open science, and open science is can be defined as a transparent and accessible knowledge that is shared and developed through collaborative networks. And this is a definition from some academics who recently conducted a review of this area. And it's really rooted in the traditions of Enlightenment science. Scientists want to engage in the free exchange of knowledge, academic publishing accepted, and we're trying often to find ways of improving access to that knowledge. And so the term open science has become also associated with movements around open access, open data, open peer review, open source software even. And one of the challenges is that for open innovation, intellectual property, and particularly patents, are a facilitating mechanism to protect knowledge and allow you to share that knowledge with competitors, safe in the belief that knowledge is protected in some way. Patents are not seen as something which facilitates open science or is needed to facilitate open science. So there are a range of challenges when we bring people together to work across boundaries, when we bring together people who are more used to working in open science with those who are more used to working in open innovation. So I've been conducting a review with a PhD student, Fabian Ibanez, and Malcolm Skingle at GSK, looking at some of these challenges that occur when we bring together physicians, who of course are very important in drug development, and academics and industry. And we find that physicians and academics, of course, have a range of duties. They're not just involved in research, but they're involved in patient care in the case of physicians. Academics have a range of duties as well around teaching and administration and so on. So conflicting incentives as well to consider in terms of how they spend their time. In terms of research, they have to have the confidence to engage with industry. That may be helped through mentoring, to realise that they have the skills that are valued by industry, and they can work in perhaps new ways with industry. They also need to have their time funded. So there needs to be funding that allows them to spend that time working with industry. And also they have to overcome some of the concerns that they may have due to their culture of open science. They may have concerns over whether working with industry is going to limit their academic freedom. They may be concerned that colleagues will see their work as less credible if they're working under conditions of commercial confidentiality to some extent. And also there's a long shadow of unethical practices from the past, and those may mean that some academics are concerned about working with industry because of those events in the past. There are also a range of interorganisational frictions that can come about because of differences in expectations. That may be differences in standards, in governance, differences in expectations of time frames for completing work, or the costs of that research. And so those are also points which can make it difficult for people from different organisations to come together and collaborate formally. There are also issues around diversity. There are many who would like to contribute to boundary spanning research, but may find those opportunities more difficult to access. So the engagement of minorities and women is poor and can be improved, and obviously it expands the pool of talent that these collaborations can draw on. But we need mechanisms to facilitate that. And then finally, there's this challenge of evidence gaps. There are challenges to address, but we're not entirely sure which policies are the best, which types of frameworks are the best to improve engagement. Some frameworks can have the end result that they drive people away and back into more familiar activities. So it's important to find the right sorts of supportive policies to encourage people to engage. So I'll just finish then with a question for Graeme and for others, and hope to spur the debate. We can see that UK Spine is keen to open up new areas of therapeutic R&D. How does the programme address the challenges of blending open innovation with open science? And I'd also just like to acknowledge the support of the DARE team who are working to study UK Spine, and that's something which is very exciting, and look forward to continuing to do more of. And I'll stop there. Thank you.